All right, welcome everybody to the Lakers Legacy Podcast, where stop me if you've heard this before, but the Lakers could use some breakneck, speedier, higher flying, explosive athletes to add to their stable of skilled players. And that was made all the more apparent when the San Antonio Spurs ran the Lakers out of their own gym. I'm your host, Jonathan Hernandez, and in today's show, we are going to set out onto the trade market and look for some cheap explosives. And with December 15th right around the corner, the first date in which teams in the NBA can begin trading players that they signed this past offseason, now seems like a relevant time to bring this topic up. And I know we are currently banking all of our future athletic hopes on a Thiero as our shining example of an elite tier athlete that we can hold on to. But I just feel like the Lakers need a complete overhaul, a complete software update in general in the athleticism department. And so, apart from Adu, I feel like the Lakers need to tack on 2 or 3 more athletes on top of Adu to make sure that we can run up and down and compete with all of these young, fast-legged, crazy leapers that some of these other teams in the NBA have. And today we'll look at 2 categories of cheap explosive athletes that they can monitor. We'll look at some established vets, established athletes, and then we'll turn to the future and also talk about some raw, younger gun athletes that the Lakers should just consider bringing into their development stable with eyes more towards the future. But first, if I could please ask you guys to like this video, comment down below, and most importantly, please hit subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And also, if you could please consider helping me out in any small way financially via the links in the description box below: Patreon, Venmo, Buy Me a Coffee, becoming a channel member where you'll get exclusive videos and perks on the monthly. I write, edit, and produce all of these videos myself. I don't have a video editing team, and it takes a lot of time and money to use all of these Creative Suite subscriptions on the monthly. And so any additional monetary donations help out a lot. All right, with that house cleaning out of the way, let's get into my list of 6 cheap explosive athletes that the Lakers could trade for. And we'll start with the established veteran group. And first up, let's talk about the Indiana Pacers' Obi Toppin. Now, Obi Toppin is currently recovering from an injury. He won't be back till about February or the All-Star break, so this one is going to require some patience on Lakers fans' ends. But I do think getting a guy, an explosive, fast, pogo stick athlete like Obi Toppin, would be worth it for the Lakers moving forward as early as this playoff run, but just in terms of keeping him for the next year onward as well. So Obi Toppin, still only 27 years old, 6'9" in height, 220 pounds. So in his career, Obi Toppin has averages of 8.5 points, 3.4 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 0.4 steals, 0.4 blocks in 17 minutes per game, 52% from the field, 35% from 3, 77% from the line. And this is over his 5-year career in the NBA. But over the last few seasons, he has improved as a 3-point shooter. This season, before he went down with his injury, he was averaging about 15 points per game. And he's sort of been that great tertiary wing/forward coming off the bench for the Pacers, who speeds the game up and just injects their team with that transition demon, that lob threat, and he just has great overall size and length as well. He has a 7'2" wingspan, and then just zeroing in on how explosive he is. This dude, now he doesn't have an official recorded max vertical leap, but some people have measured it at about 44 plus inch vertical. And some have even said that he has as high as a 48 plus inch max vert. But I mean, you don't even need the numbers to know just how high Obi Toppin can rise when he goes up for these hammer jams and how he can catch the ball anywhere near the rim. And so Obi Toppin, I feel like if you pair him next to Luka Doncic, he would give us that absolute stallion of a speedster in transition. He would give us that vertical lob threat dynamic from the wing/forward position. And he's just a more explosive athlete than Rui Hachimura. He's a more agile and flexible athlete. And I think that's something that the Lakers need. Like, we need to be able to run with these teams. We need to be able to overwhelm them with our athleticism at the rim, with our forceful athleticism. And I think Obi Toppin can be that for us. Now, again, he is currently injured, but because of that, I think the Lakers can get him relatively cheaply. And so this is an under the radar target that shouldn't cost too many assets, if any, for the Lakers to try and get. And the Pacers are currently in a gap year as well. They probably want to shed some salary. Obi Toppin is on for 3 more years, and he'll only be making $14 million in the 2027-28 season. So yes, it's a long-term contract, but it's a pretty cheap contract below the full mid-level exception. And I think given the fact that he's still only 27 years old, we just need his injection of speed, quickness, and explosive athleticism. Sorry, correction. He's making $16 million in the 2027-28 season. $14 million this year, and then it escalates to about $16 million in 2027-28, which would still be below the full mid-level exception by that time. So anyways, keep Obi Toppin in mind as an explosive athlete that the Lakers should target. All right, let's move on to my second established athlete that the Lakers should look at, and let's talk about the Clippers' Derrick Jones Jr. So currently, like Obi Toppin before him, Derrick Jones Jr. is also injured right now, but I think he should be due back with the Clippers soon. Derrick Jones Jr., Luka's former wing 3-and-D teammate. He is 6'6" in height, 210 pounds, still only 28 years old. This season with the Clippers, he's averaging 10.5 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 0.8 steals, 1.2 blocks in just 25 minutes per game, shooting 53% from the field, 34.8% from three, 78.6% from the line. And yeah, Derrick Jones Jr. is currently making $10 million this year. He's on for 1 more year next year, $10 million as well. He's on a cheap deal. The Clippers are going nowhere. Even though I know the Clippers hate the Lakers, to me it makes sense for them to get any assets back and to try to start recouping their stable of young assets. And so I feel like we could get Derrick Jones Jr. for Dalton Connect. You know, he's on a cheaper deal. The Clippers would have his control of his future for longer than Derrick Jones Jr. And the Clippers should really just blow it up. And obviously, from the Lakers' end, we know why they would do this type of deal. We would be reuniting Luka Doncic with his 3-and-D lob threat wing in Derrick Jones Jr. And yeah, DJJ has improved as a three-point shooter every single year as well, both in terms of volume and efficiency. But we want DJJ because, well, one, he's also a really good defender. He's also developed into a really good defender who knows how to leverage his length and his nice 7-foot wingspan. But Derrick Jones Jr. is also athletic AF. Derrick Jones Jr., I believe in his respective draft combine, measured with a 46-inch max vertical. And again, like Obi Toppin before him, you don't necessarily need to even look at the numbers to know how high Derrick Jones Jr. can fly, what a dynamic force he is at the rim, how quickly he can run up and down the floor. So Derrick Jones Jr., even though he's already 28 years old, he still has that pop and life in his legs, and I would love to reunite him with Luka Doncic. And again, if the Clippers are being smart about their future, they should burn this to the ground. They should want whatever young assets can come their way. And I know in today's episode, we are not going to necessarily be talking about the trade logistics or even like the trade realistics of any one scenario. But to me, it actually makes sense for them to trade away Derrick Jones Jr. and maybe get back a Dalton Connect, take back Gabe Vincent's expiring contract so that they don't have Derrick Jones $10 million on the books for next year. And they could use that salary cap space for something else, for absorbing more salary and taking back more draft capital. And so to me, this is a deal that makes sense for both sides. And I don't think I need to sell you guys on the Lakers trying to trade for Derrick Jones Jr., even though currently he's a little bit banged up, but he should be due back by the end of this year or at the start of the new year. And yeah, Derrick Jones Jr. is a wing that I have wanted the Lakers to try and acquire ever since his Miami Heat days. And then even more so now after we've seen him grow as a player with the Dallas Mavericks alongside Luka Doncic. And so, yeah, I would love to see Luka and Derrick Jones Jr. recapture some of that spark that they had with the Mavericks, but this time with the Lakers. All right, so there's Derrick Jones Jr. Let's move on to my third established vet athlete, and let's talk about the Warriors' Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga, 23 years old, 6'7" in height, 225 pounds. He re-signed with the Warriors begrudgingly this past offseason. He's on for $22.5 million this year and then about $24 million next year on a club option. So I think that's commensurate to his value. This season with the Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga is averaging 12.4 points, 6.3 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 0.3 steals, 0.4 blocks in just 25 minutes per game, shooting 44% from the field, 32% from three, 74% from the line. Now, those numbers looked a hell of a lot better during the first month of the season when his efficiency was like 50% from the field, 40% from three. But as is often the case with Jonathan Kuminga, after a few weeks of playing nice and fitting into a tertiary complementary role, he eventually gets tired of doing that and wants the ball in his hands. His efficiency drops, and it's kind of the same story with Jonathan Kuminga. And I guess because of those reasons, why would the Lakers want to trade for this type of player? And those are all fair arguments against trying to trade for Jonathan Kuminga. Outside of the fact that he is making, $22 million, I don't think I'd make the Rui for Jonathan Kuminga straight up swap because frankly, Rui is just the vastly superior three-point shooter. But if we can keep Rui and just add Jonathan Kuminga by giving the Warriors expiring contracts. Now, again, I don't want to get into the logistics. I don't know why the Warriors would want to do this, but hypothetically, let's say we could get Jonathan Kuminga without trading Rui Hachimura for him. Jonathan Kuminga is one of these bang out, punch you in your face, explosive detonators at the rim. And we've seen him poster Jake LaRavia of all people, right? On top of that, Jonathan Kuminga just has crazy physical specs, 225 pounds, 6'7" in height, 6'11" wingspan. For a forward, he has a 38-inch max vert. And for a forward, that is very impressive. And so I just love how sturdily he's built. But more than that, I love how forceful and powerful he is at the rim. Like, this is the type of dude that can knife into the lane, cock the ball all the way behind his head, and then post or jam it on people. And the Lakers, again, just need more of these types of athletes. They need more of this type of physical clay, dudes who can run up and down the court, streak up and down the court in transition, and just shove the ball down defenses' throats and wear them out. And Jonathan Kuminga is that type of athlete. How he would fit the Lakers' scheme, whether he'd be able to space it out enough to JJ Redick's liking, whether he would be okay in the same sort of complementary role. He'd probably get even less touches with Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James. I don't know how he would fit. I don't know if mentally he'd be able to buy in. So those are all fair questions. I just think if everything shakes out right, in terms of his physical athletic skill set, Jonathan Kuminga is one of the most explosive wings on the market. And while unlikely, if the Lakers were somehow able to nab him, I would take that as a pretty decent flyer on physical moldable clay. All right, so that is Jonathan Kuminga, and that will do it for our first part of explosive athletes dealing with these established veterans. Before we move on to the next section and talk about some raw young guns, let's first talk about today's sponsor. And let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. Because fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the Knicks versus Magic in-season tournament game this Saturday, and I am picking Desmond Bane higher than 20.5 points and Jalen Suggs higher than 16.5 points for the simple fact that Franz Wagner is currently out for the Magic. He'll be out for the next coming weeks, and the Magic will need all of their supporting cast to step up. And also, Desmond Bane has been running hot the last couple of weeks as well. So, yeah, Desmond Bane higher than 20.5 points. And then if you want another play, try Jalen Suggs higher than 16.5 points. So, what are you waiting for? Get those plays in while you can before the IST resumes on Saturday. Download the Underdog app today and use promo code LEGACY to score $75 in bonus entries when you play with your first $5. That's promo code LEGACY. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for more details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. All right, let's take it to a couple more sponsors, and then I'll catch you guys after the turn, at which point we'll be talking about some younger athletes of the future. All right, so we are back, and in this last section, we are going to be talking about 3 young athletes, and this next group will be more of our developmental group, projects for the future. Not that they can't contribute now, but they're definitely less refined than the 3 prospects that I mentioned up top. And they probably wouldn't have JJ Redick's trust on the outset, especially if JJ Redick is not even currently playing Adu Thiero normal rotation minutes. But they would sort of fit in with that Adu Thiero inexperience, but they have high upside group. But in my opinion, I think it will be wise for the Lakers to begin stacking up these athletes in general, not even just to quote unquote win now, which they definitely should be doing. They should be trying to acquire win now players, but they should also be trying to bring in their Shannon Brown types as well to help bolster their explosive athleticism for years to come beyond just looking at this season. And so that's what I'm going to be trying to achieve with this group right here. And again, that's not to say that these players won't be able to contribute now. I just think it's going to take a little bit more hair pulling to get JJ Redick to come around to trusting them. But yeah, with that said, let's talk about my first young explosive athlete in this next group. And let's talk about the Washington Wizards' Cam Whitmore. So Lakers fans obviously know all about Cam Whitmore. He was famously taken after the Lakers selected Jalen Hood-Schifino, even though a ton of Lakers fans were clamoring for Cam Whitmore, who was originally slated to be like a top 7 prospect, but kept falling due to injuries. And also, as we're coming to learn, work ethic issues, character issues, etc., etc. Cam Whitmore, shooting guard / small forward. He is 6'6" in height, 230 pounds, very sturdy, bulky guard / wing. He's still only 21 years old. He is on for $3.5 million this year and then is on for $5 million next season. Cam Whitmore this season with the Wizards is averaging 9.2 points per game, 2.8 rebounds, 0.7 assists, 0.7 steals, 0.4 blocks in just 17 minutes per game. He's shooting 45.6% from the field, a pretty abysmal 28.6% from 3, and 74% from the stripe. But with Cam Whitmore, you are acquiring this guy because he's got a ton of bounce. We've seen him apply this athleticism and force on the Lakers themselves when he was a Houston Rocket. And I believe there was that one game where he kept stripping the ball from the Lakers and taking it all the way down and tomahawk jamming it in our faces. And he did that like 4 or 5 straight possessions. So we've sort of seen firsthand how devastating Cam Whitmore can be as an athletic force at the rim and in transition. And again, I would just love to have that bang out, no questions asked type of athlete like Cam Whitmore on this roster. And I think Luka Doncic would love that type of athlete as well. And then, yeah, on top of it, Cam Whitmore's overall physical profile being 6'5", 6'6", but pretty hefty and bulky and sturdy, 230 pounds, 6'8" wingspan. He's just nice, physical, moldable clay. And then during his combine, he measured out with a crazy 40.5-inch max vert. And for a guard slash wing who's about 6'5", that is pretty insane. Now, the biggest problem with Cam Whitmore is he's kind of an airhead. His work ethic seems to be pretty fleeting. His current coach with the Wizards seems to have him under disciplinary actions. He seems to have him in the doghouse. And so I'm not sure if Cam Whitmore is necessarily a good culture fit. And I think that's something the Lakers are trying to emphasize. And so I would understand if Cam Whitmore is not in the Lakers' radar, and I would understand if Lakers fans don't want to bring him in. But I'm just talking about who are the most explosive athletes out there who the Lakers can trade for on the cheap. Cam Whitmore is one of them. I do believe that they could probably get Cam Whitmore for Dalton Connect, and I'm sure the Washington Wizards would maybe make that swap, especially if they're tired of Cam Whitmore's antics. Again, do the Lakers want to have a locker room problem on their hands? Probably not. But again, if we're just talking about straight up athletes, Cam Whitmore is one of the best out there. All right, let's move on to my next young prospect, and let's talk about the Memphis Grizzlies' Gigi Jackson. Gigi Jackson, still only 20 years old. He's about to turn 21, 6'9" in height, 210 pounds. He's making $2.2 million this year, $2.4 million next year. He was the former number 45th pick in the 2023 draft. Outside of being 6'9", he has a nice long 6'11" wingspan, and he measured in with a 37-inch max vertical. And for a 6'9" forward, that is very impressive. In his career, Gigi Jackson has averaged 11 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 0.5 steals, and 0.4 blocks in 20.5 minutes per game, shooting 40.8% from the field, 34% from three, and 74% from the line. And this season with the Memphis Grizzlies, for whatever reason, he's just totally out of their rotation. I'm not sure if he's totally out of their future plans. Maybe he'll be reinserted back into the lineup, especially now that the Grizzlies season is starting to take a downturn with Zach Edey going to be out for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, with a stress reaction, they may turn to their young guys and totally hit the reset button on this season. But currently right now, Gigi Jackson has been playing for the Grizzlies. And so if that's the case, I feel like this is an opportune moment for the Lakers to get in on maybe the more level-headed Jonathan Kuminga, the more impressionable and less high-maintenance version of Jonathan Kuminga, because Gigi Jackson, like Kuminga before him, is explosive and long, and he can detonate at the rim. He also loves LeBron James. He was awestruck and starstruck to be playing against LeBron during his rookie season. And his rookie season was actually when he had his best year, averaging about 14 points. This was when the Grizzlies were tanking, and it was a complete looter in a riot situation. But when Gigi Jackson got time, he took full advantage of it. He showed off his ability to shoot threes, showed off his ability to put the ball on the floor and create shots for himself. He's definitely still a work in progress defensively, but he also has the physical tools to be a good defender. It's now just all about harnessing those tools in the right direction. But he also has familiarity playing with Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia. So I like bringing in Gigi Jackson now. I wouldn't even necessarily call him a rehabilitation project. He just was injured last season, and then this season, he's just not getting the time. And so if we can bring him into our ranks, continue to develop and refine his game, this is an athlete worth investing in. You put him next to Adu Thiero and just imagine them streaking down the court together. He is a complete menace at the rim, a great vertical lob threat and outlet, and I just feel like he would be a great complement to Luka Doncic and be another sort of release valve for Luka to turn to at the rim. And so if I'm the Lakers, I'm calling the Memphis Grizzlies and seeing what they want for GG Jackson. He's only making like $2.4 million or $2.2 million this year. Would they want a flyer on Dalton Connect instead? I don't know. All I know is that I like GG Jackson coming out of college, and I like him even more now because he's sort of like a distressed asset, and because the Lakers can get him for cheap, and he just so happens to have the skill and quality that I want the Lakers to acquire more of in explosive athleticism. All right, so there is GG Jackson. Let's move on to my last young gun athlete, and let's talk about the Washington Wizards' AJ Johnson. So this is one of Cam Whitmore's teammates. AJ Johnson is the former number 23rd pick in the 2024 draft by the Milwaukee Bucks. He is 6'5", weighs 160 pounds. He's still only 21 years old. He just turned 21 years old. His career regular season stats, I mean, it's almost pointless to bring these up, but in his career, he has averages of 5.8 points per game, 1.7 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 0.3 steals, 0.1 blocks in just 17.5 minutes per game on pretty abysmal percentages, 37% from the field, 25.8% from three-point land, and 85% from the stripe. But with AJ Johnson, it is just all about potential, his raw athleticism, his lanky arms. He has a nice 6'9" wingspan, and that's very impressive given the fact that he's 6'5/6'6". He also measured out with a 38-inch max vert, which is also very impressive. Prior to being drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks, he played for Australia in the NBL with the Illawarra Hawks. And so AJ Johnson has had an interesting career trajectory to get to this point. It's kind of been marred by just upside and potential versus real production and reps. And so he's probably the most raw of any of these players that I've mentioned, because at least Cam Whitmore and GG Jackson have shown actual tangible production, whereas AJ Johnson, I mean, he's had some 19-point games with the Wizards last season when he was traded to them by the Bucks, but it just hasn't been consistent, and he just hasn't had consistent run and reps thus far in his career. So if the Lakers were to trade for him, it would be a pure, let's park him in South Bay for a little bit and just continue to hone his skills, because this dude is a very fluid athlete. He looks very Paul George-esque when you watch him on the floor, watch him handle the ball a little bit, snake his way into the lane, and then all of a sudden rise for a tomahawk jam. But yeah, like the athletes I mentioned before him, he's just got really nice explosive pop. And he looks like the prototypical, like if you squint hard enough, the prototypical athletic wing. If you squint hard enough, he kind of looks like a shorter Brandon Williams. And I think that's why the Milwaukee Bucks decided to take the chance on him, even though he didn't go to college, and even though with the Illawarra Hawks, he didn't show any statistical production whatsoever. I believe he was averaging very paltry stats. That's why the Milwaukee Bucks chose to pick him in the first round, even with how raw he was. The number 23rd pick in the 2024 NBA draft. They saw potential. They saw the high upside. They saw the high ceiling in his athleticism. And so I don't know where the Washington Wizards are at with AJ Johnson. They did trade for him, but he's currently not playing that many minutes for the Wizards at all. He's currently not in their rotation. And so can the Lakers just try and bring him in on the cheap as their last roster spot, as a South Bay Lakers project? I believe he's probably rawer than Adu Thiero at this point, because a lot of his skill sets are very theoretical. But again, if we're talking about bringing athletic, explosive players, AJ Johnson is the epitome of that. And so, yeah, AJ Johnson is probably my most hipstery, out of the box prospect to look at. And it might even be almost pointless to try and trade for him, because who knows, he might get cut in a year's time and the Lakers might just be able to acquire him off of free agency and put him on a two-way contract. But hey, if it doesn't cost them that much to get AJ Johnson, and we already know the Lakers have a pretty good relationship making deals with the Washington Wizards, I would not mind an AJ Johnson flyer whatsoever. Even if we don't get to see the dividends of that this season, let's just get an athlete. Again, maybe by next season, he's ready to run with Adu Thiero on the wings and catch lobs and stuff. And then again, AJ Johnson, he does have some of that upside as an on-ball shot creator as well. But I think that will have to come a little bit later down the line with regards to his development. And again, right now, all I'm focused on is how high does this guy leap? How fast does he run? Does he have like crazy physical tools that you can harness and develop? And I think AJ Johnson currently ticks off all of those boxes. Now it's just about getting him the reps and the proper refinement and development in his game to help him grow into a more well-rounded NBA player who can actually contribute to winning basketball and can actually be a good rotation player. All right, so there is AJ Johnson. And that, folks, will do it for this video. That'll do it for this episode. These are my best options that I can think of right now in terms of cheap explosives that the Lakers can go out and try and acquire on the trade market. How realistic they are, I'm not sure. What assets need to go out, I'm not sure. I'm just talking about canvassing the league for cheap explosive athletes who can help bolster the Lakers in this department and allow them to be able to keep up with these crazy young guns who keep running us out of the gym, like the Spurs, the Thunder, etc. So yeah, I gave you guys some older established vets like Obi Toppin, Derrick Jones Jr., Jonathan Kuminga. And then I also gave you some of the more raw developmental projects like Gigi Jackson, AJ Johnson, and Cam Whitmore. If I had to rank these prospects and give you my top three, I'd probably go Derrick Jones Jr. number 1, Obi Toppin number 2, and then Gigi Jackson number 3. But yeah, with that said, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Once again, if you guys could please do me the favor of liking this video, commenting down below, mashing the hype button, and most importantly, please hitting subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you could please leave a 5-star rating and review, that would help me out a lot as well. And yeah, with that said, this has been Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.